Listen up because what I'm about to share with you today is absolutely groundbreaking. I'm John from Dream Visa Updates, and trust me, you need to hear every single word of what's coming next. A massive new immigration law has just been passed in the United States, and it's creating shockwaves that are rippling through every immigrant community across the nation. Whether you've been living in America for 30 years, just arrived a few months ago, or you have loved ones still dreaming of making it here, what I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about staying in this country. After years of waiting, years of hoping, years of political gridlock, Congress has finally taken action. And here's where it gets really interesting. Parts of this new law bring hope, opportunity, and reforms that people have been begging for. But there's also a strict new rule buried in here that could completely flip your world upside down if you're not a U.S. citizen. And yes, I'm talking to you, green card holders. You might think you're safe, but I need you to pay very close attention because even you are no longer fully protected under this new system. Here's what's making this historic. For the first time in modern history, Democrats and Republicans actually came together and pushed through a massive immigration reform, and they did it while Donald Trump is sitting back in the White House. Nobody saw this coming. Nobody expected these two parties to find common ground. And absolutely nobody expected the details inside this law to be this tough, this unforgiving. We're talking about situations where a simple mistake, something as common as getting a DUI, could become the single event that costs you everything you've built in America. Stay with me because what you're about to hear affects millions of families. It could change the entire future you've been working toward. Now, before we dive into the details, I want you to take a breath. I want you to feel calm, informed, and prepared. This isn't about spreading fear, this is about giving you clarity. When the laws shift this dramatically, the smartest thing you can do is understand exactly what they mean, how they're going to work, and what steps you need to take right now to protect yourself and the people you love. So let's break this down together, piece by piece. The first major change this reform brings is something that caught most immigrants completely off guard. Under the new law, anyone who is not a U.S. citizen will now be labeled as a non-citizen. Now, I know that sounds like just a technical detail, maybe even obvious, but stick with me because it comes with enormous consequences. Before this reform, green card holders were treated very differently from other immigrants. They had more security, more rights, way more stability. But now, under this law that just passed, green card holders are on the exact same playing field as temporary visa holders. International students, workers, and pretty much everyone else who hasn't become a citizen yet. Why does this shift matter so much? Because it means the government can now apply the strictest rules to all non-citizens without making any exceptions. For years, decades even, many permanent residents felt like their green card was a shield, a promise that they could stay in the United States as long as they followed the basic rules. And to be fair, that felt true for a long time. But here's the reality check. Immigration law has always allowed the government to revoke a green card in certain situations. What's different now is how far that authority has been expanded and how easily, how quickly a person can lose their status. One of the biggest, most controversial pieces of this reform zeroes in entirely on DUIs, driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. In the past, if you got a DUI, it might have led to fines, some classes, maybe community service. It depended on your state and the specific circumstances. A lot of people continued living their lives afterward without ever imagining the immigration nightmare it could trigger down the road. But under this new law, a single DUI, just one, has now become grounds for inadmissibility and automatic deportation. Let me say that again. One DUI can get you deported. So let's talk about what inadmissible really means because this is where it gets confusing. And honestly, pretty scary. If an immigrant is deemed inadmissible, it means the U.S. government has the legal right to deny them entry into the country, even if they already live here. I know that sounds contradictory, but here's how it actually works. If you travel abroad and try to come back, you could be stopped at the border and turned away. Even more shocking, you can be labeled inadmissible without ever leaving the country, simply because the law now says you no longer qualify to stay. And under this reform, a DUI, whether it's a formal conviction, an admission to an officer, or even just acknowledging the basic elements of the offense, is enough to trigger this label. The wording of the law is brutally strict. It doesn't matter how your state treats the offense. Some states see DUI as a misdemeanor, a low-level offense. Others handle it more aggressively. But now, none of that matters anymore. Federal law overrides state law, and the federal government is treating every single DUI the same way, as a deportable offense for non-citizens. Think about that for a second. Someone who has lived in the United States for 20, even 30 years. Someone who has paid their taxes every year, raised their children here, worked hard, bought a home, contributed to their community. If that person makes one mistake behind the wheel, they could lose everything. Not only their green card, but their ability to ever return to the country they've built their entire life in. This reform leaves absolutely no room for second chances. What makes this even more alarming is that the law doesn't just cover convictions. It also includes admissions. Many immigrants have no idea that simply telling an officer, a judge, or even an immigration agent that they had a drink before driving can count as an admission. In some cases, even acknowledging that you understand what a DUI is, that you know what it means to operate a vehicle under the influence, can be used against you. This means thousands of people who never thought they were in any kind of danger could suddenly find themselves facing serious immigration consequences. Now, you might be asking yourself, why would Congress take such a harsh stance? According to lawmakers, the goal is to protect American citizens. They argue that driving under the influence puts innocent lives at risk, and that the government should prioritize the safety of everyone on the road. By making DUI an automatic disqualifier for non-citizens, Congress believes it will reduce dangerous behavior and push people to comply more strictly with the law. Whether you agree with their reasoning or not, this is the direction our leadership has chosen, and it's critical to understand just how deeply it impacts the immigrant community. But here's where the story takes a turn. This reform isn't only about punishment. There's another side to it that actually offers real opportunity. Congress has created a brand new path forward for millions of immigrants who have been waiting years, sometimes decades, for a chance to legalize their status. The reform includes updated processing rules, new immigration categories, and a potential road to work authorization for people who previously had absolutely no options. For many families, this part of the law feels like the progress they've been praying for. However, and this is a big however, the opportunity comes with a very clear warning. To qualify for any of these benefits, immigrants must demonstrate good moral character. Now, this term has existed in immigration law for a long time, but under the new reform, its definition has been tightened dramatically. A DUI now automatically disqualifies someone from being considered of good moral character. That means you cannot apply for citizenship. You cannot renew certain immigration benefits, and you cannot access the new programs created under this reform. It becomes a complete barrier, and it stays on your record for years. This is exactly why so many immigration experts are calling this new law a major turning point. Not because it closes the door completely, but because it raises the bar in ways that will affect millions of people. For many immigrants, especially older individuals who have lived in the U.S. for decades, this reform is a loud reminder that citizenship is the only true protection. Green cards offer security, yes, but only up to a certain point. And now that point has become sharper, stricter, and more dangerous than ever before. What makes this moment even more significant is that the reform passed with bipartisan support. Democrats and Republicans actually came together to approve one of the strictest, most sweeping immigration actions the U.S. has ever seen, and they did it all while Donald Trump sits in the Oval Office once again. This level of cooperation is incredibly rare, and it signals that both parties want stricter enforcement paired with new options for legal status. It's a fascinating combination. Hope on one side, serious consequences on the other. For immigrants watching all of this unfold, it can feel overwhelming. Many are scared. Many feel uncertain about what comes next. Many are worried sick about their family's future. And that's completely understandable. But here's what I want you to remember. Knowledge is power. Understanding these new rules gives you the ability to protect yourself and make smart decisions moving forward. If you're a green card holder, the message is crystal clear. Stay vigilant. Follow the law. Avoid risky situations. Don't drive if you've had even one drink. Don't assume that the old rules still apply because they don't. The stakes have changed, and the consequences are now more severe than they've ever been. If you have family members who are immigrants, whether they're your children, your siblings, your parents, make sure they understand this too. Sometimes the biggest danger is believing that a small mistake doesn't matter. Under this reform, it matters more than it ever has before. And if you've been thinking about applying for citizenship but kept putting it off, now is the time to take action. Citizenship is the only way to fully protect your future in the United States. It gives you rights that no law can take away and shields you from the immigration consequences that non-citizens are now facing every single day. In the end, this reform is both a warning and an opportunity. It tightens the rules dramatically, but it also opens new doors for those who qualify. Understanding the balance between those two sides is the key to navigating this new chapter in American immigration. And as always, we here at Dream Visa Updates will be right here to keep you updated, informed, and prepared for whatever comes next. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. I'm John, and I'll see you in the next one.